Our guest on Personally Speaking this week is Attorney General William P. Barr, Attorney General for both President Bush and President Trump. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Msgr. Jim Lisante, and former United States Attorney General William P. Barr joins me now. Mr. Barr is only the second person in history to serve as United States Attorney General twice. He served under President George H.W. Bush and again under President Donald Trump. Mr. Barr was on the cusp of retirement when he was recruited for the position of Attorney General in the Trump White House. He chronicles his historic tenure, working under two vastly different presidents, George H.W. Bush and Donald Trump, in his new and very powerful book. It's a memoir called One Damn Thing After Another. Mr. Barr is here with us today to talk about carrying out his duties during two extremely difficult and challenging presidencies and how his Catholic faith has been a foundation in his life and throughout his career. Joining me now, I'm so pleased and honored to welcome to Personally Speaking, former United States Attorney General William Barr. We are here with William Barr, who has written a great book called One Damn Thing After Another, Memoirs of Being an Attorney General. And one of the things I liked about it, that Mr. Attorney General, I loved about it, was that while most of the media, I'm sure, is focusing on the relationship with President Trump, I am a huge fan of President H.W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and I love that in the book you spend a good deal of time about him. Could you tell us a little bit more about the man? I was troubled recently. A kid saw a picture of me and President Bush on the wall, and he didn't even know who he was. He said, "No, that's not President Bush." He was thinking of the son, but the father and the kind of president he was. You work closely with him. Who was George H.W. Bush?
He was a consummate gentleman, one of the most considerate men I've ever met in a high position. When I knew him when I was 25, 26 years old at the CIA.
Okay.
And essentially worked with him on various occasions over the years, lastly as his Attorney General. He was a decisive man. He was comfortable in his philosophy. He was very decent to all his subordinates. He never found blame with people. He always took responsibility for his decisions. He was a pleasure to work with in every respect.
Now, you made a choice then and again in our own past 10 years to give yourself over to public service. I have to presume that in private practice you could have had a much, much easier, less stressful life. What is it in Bill Barr that made him say, I know this is going to cost me, but I'm going to give myself into public service?
Well, after I left the Justice Department the first time under President Bush, I spent 15 years in the telecommunications business and as a general counsel of Verizon. And then I had no intention of going back into government. I was essentially moving toward retirement at the age of 69. We were starting to enjoy our grandchildren and so forth. And economically, I was in a very good position. I didn't want to go into government, but then it appeared that we were careening toward a constitutional crisis. The Russiagate matter was being used to cripple President Trump, and I decided that when he asked me, that I really had to answer the call.
Yeah. And it was a great choice. I'm glad you did, because he really needed in so many ways to have a man like you around. Now, for those who haven't yet read One Damn Thing After Another, Attorney General Barr is very, very exact about some of the conversations between him and President Trump. And they're striking to me in their directness and honesty. But let me ask you, is that typical of the way in which members of the cabinet speak to the president?
It depends on the president. The president, the president was sort of an exaggerated version of a New Yorker,
Right.
and that didn't bother me because I was from New York City as well,
Right.
and he understood direct talk and didn't beat around the bush, and so I was comfortable talking that way with him. President Bush was a little bit late. He was a little different. He was a little more formal, and I wouldn't necessarily have addressed him the same way I talked to President Trump.
Right, no, that's for sure. For those who don't know, Attorney General Barr, back in the Bush administration, as most recently in the Trump administration, has never been anything but an unapologetic Catholic Christian. So, of course, I'm intrigued by people in public life who aren't afraid to say what they believe, who they are. I mention that because I was wondering the roots of your faith. What fed it? What gave you the courage of conviction to say, this is who I am, like it or not, this is what I believe?
Well, I was brought up as a Catholic. I went to parochial school in New York City. I grew up near Columbia University and went to the local parish school, Corpus Christi. My mother was a serious Catholic, Irish Catholic. My father was of Jewish background and from a secular family, but he had tremendous respect for the Catholic Church. And they were both academics, so while they raised us in the faith, my father, who eventually converted to Catholicism, always told us, think through what you believe. Don't just put on your beliefs like you're taking something off a rack and putting it on and saying, here I am. Actually think about it, because if you adopt positions and beliefs too easily, then you can lose them easily. And so think things through. And so he always encouraged us, told us what to read. Well, my father, even though he wasn't a Catholic until later in life, he said he was wrestling with faith, but he felt the Catholic Church, as he said, if there is a God, then there's no question in my mind the Roman Catholic Church is the true church. Yeah. So he would teach us, he would direct us to different writers and church documents and so forth. So we took time actually learning about it as we grew up.
You would appreciate this. One of our guests before he went to God was the great actor Ed Asner, who identifies as a atheistic Jewish person. And I said to him, now that you're 90, are you still an atheist? And he said, well, the closer I get to the end, the more I hope you people are right. And I think he was onto something. And now I wanted to ask you, because I think it's kind of important, you get into in the book, and I'm happy you did, talking about the Rodney King case and the outbreak of violence in Los Angeles and the police brutality he dealt with. But then, in the next time you're serving, we have to deal with the George Floyd issue. Is it in your mind, like I compare it in my own mind, I preached about this in my church, I've said, 4% of the priests have done lousy things. 96% of us have never hurt a kid, but we're all tarred by that brush. In the same way, are most police good people?
Absolutely. The vast majority, 95, 96, 97%.
Okay.
Or more are we all have our flaws, but these are basically civic-minded people who have an extremely tough job, a job that's getting tougher all the time. It's more dangerous all the time, and they live, a life where in seconds of chaos, they can make the wrong decision and lose their life. So I approach these things with real understanding of the difficulties and the challenges and the split-second decisions police have to make. Now, in the Rodney King case, that was a pretty severe beating they meted out over a long period of time. Yeah. And then, of course, in Minneapolis, the same situation. It wasn't a beating, but it was, reckless behavior that they engaged in there. So those particular cases, however, in my mind, are very unusual. Most of these cases involve split seconds where the officer believes that his life is in danger and takes action. Yeah.
Attorney General William Barr is our guest. This book is one damn thing after another. I hope all of our listeners and viewers will get hold of the book. It's excellent. But here's my thing. On a personal level, you make a decision, as I understand it, you're 23, she's 21, to marry Christine. Every weekend I get to celebrate weddings, and one of the ways I try to be a better preacher is to say, could you guys write me an essay on why, of the billions of people out there, why do you think this is the one you're supposed to spend your life with? What did you see in Christine that made you say, I'm building a life with this woman?
She was a very loving and tender person, but she also had she was very resilient. She had a strength of character, an internal strength of character. And we also shared a lot of the same values, you know, our religion, our general outlook on the world. And I felt not only, you know, love for her, but I also felt as a person that she would be a great partner in life and in raising children, and you know, a strong leader of the family. So that's what attracted me.
And I know there's no one answer for this question, but tons of people who watch a show like this or listen, our grandparents who are always wondering, parents and grandparents, how do I take the faith that I love and effectively pass it on to the children I love? And you and your wife have 3 beautiful daughters and now grandchildren. Is there a particular right way, do you think, to bring the faith into their lives in an effective way?
Well, first, I've said many times, I couldn't agree more. You know, to me, if you really have faith, then the most important thing in your life is passing that faith on to the next generation. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we always sent our kids to Catholic school, and I adopted the same approach as my parents, trying to explain things to them and so forth. And I'm happy they range in age now from 37 to 43, and they all go to church and are practicing Catholics, and their kids all go to Catholic school. So you know, I think if people ask me what my greatest accomplishment is, knock on wood, I would say I'm very proud of the way my children have turned out.
You'd appreciate this. Senator Jim Buckley was on. He's 99 now, I think, and he says, in terms of passing on the faith, he said, I've got 6 kids, 3 go to church, 3 I want to get them back to church before I go to God. So, yeah, what a great man.
My friend Nino Scalia used to say the same thing. It's the most important thing. And he said something to his kids that I actually was saying to my kids. We found out about it separately. We both had, I said, you know, the faith has been in our family since, you know, probably 400 AD. So that's 1,600 years. Are you going to be the generation that breaks it?
Well, I'm so glad you brought up Justice Scalia. He came once to Nassau County to our Bar Association. I was asked to do some introductory remarks and a prayer, and I asked him to go to the center of the room and ask everyone to raise their hand in blessing over the Supreme Court Justice. And we blessed him and we prayed for him. But then when it was over, he got up to the mic and he said, you know, Monsignor, thank you. But he said, usually around America, when people raise their arm to me, it's not in blessing. But here's the other thing he said. I asked him, and it doesn't matter who the justice is, but there was one justice who had been appointed, and the promise was that he had a pro-life perspective, and when he got on the court, that changed. And I said to Justice Scalia, what happened? And he said something that you touch on very much in One Damn Thing After Another. He said he got eaten up by Georgetown society by wanting to fit in with the elite, the popular, the movers and the shakers, and he didn't want to be responsible for changing the law if it was going to make him unpopular with those people who are in Washington. I mention that because you have been a part of the Washington community so long, and you don't seem to have been sucked into that particular need to be loved by everybody. How come?
Well, that's the way, again, that goes back to my raising. My parents' mantra was, because we lived in a community, an academic community where there weren't many believers. They said, you know, we don't care what other people think. You shouldn't care what other people think, what your peers think or anyone else thinks. You know what's right, do what you think is right. And we've always been in position. When I went to Columbia, it was during a period where my beliefs were very much in the minority, and we just learned to live with that. But I do think the main reason, that a lot of people adopt these progressive views that are essentially secular and move away from the church is largely because they want to be popular with the in crowd.
Yeah.
It's this craving to be part of the in crowd, and I think that's responsible for a lot of people straying from religion.
Attorney General William Barr is our guest. His book is One Damn Thing After Another. Every week, Sunday Mass, 10:30 Mass, we have a good crowd, and at the back door they give their feedback. And I have to say that, let's say 9 out of 10 people say they got something out of the homily, they liked it. But I have to tell you, and maybe it's just me, but that one person who says, don't agree, I think you're wrong, that's what I'm going to focus on the rest of the day. In public life, twice as Attorney General, you have to take grief from people. So I'm just wondering, at the end of the day, how well do you take criticism, and what do you do with it?
Well, that's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today. So I've been known to have a strong personality, and I've always insisted on having staff people who are extremely strong. Mm-hmm. Because I don't mind disagreement at all, and I want people to push back, and I like robust debate. And if I think someone is full of baloney, I ignore them. I don't necessarily suffer fools, but if someone people say that I'll be sitting there, and then it sort of registers that the person has a good point, and I'm quiet for a minute or two, and then I say, okay, I changed my mind. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to change your mind, listen to other people. And that's why, I believe in the dialectic, the debate, and trying to sort out, what the real truth is. And that's why I'm so upset that we're moving into a period of time where I think the progressive left is really suppressing free speech, suppressing debate, won't engage in reasoned discussion. They attack you personally. Or they claim that your views are so dangerous they shouldn't see the light of day, but they never engage. They never really deal with the arguments.
I like books about government, and I read a lot of them, but I have to say, one of the things you just touched on now, it's rare in a book by someone like you for the people who are assistants or seconds in command or thirds or fourth in command to be praised and appreciated the way you do in your book. Again, where does it come from in you, that ability to say, I'm not believing I invented myself or that every good thing has come from me. I know it's a shared experience, and I want to give credit to those who deserve it. You have to know that that's not what many people in public life do.
Yeah, well, I think, all of us have to struggle against self-centeredness, and it's a lifetime of trying to look at it from the other person's perspective, thinking if the shoe is on the other foot. And, that's basically the perspective I try to keep. I try to put myself in the other person's position, mm-hmm. and not take people for granted.
Yeah. One of the things that Attorney General Barr does in his book is he addresses the issue of President Trump and his personality, and there's nothing that you wrote that I don't agree with amazingly right down the line. But recently, in giving a homily in my church, when I said I basically stand with Attorney General Barr that even if there was some irregularity, there's not enough to have overturned this election. President Biden is duly elected. And what I was troubled by was you have Mr. Trump with his point of view, but there were so many people who said to me afterwards, no matter what Trump says, I believe it. There's a blindness to the followers that puts intelligent examination aside and just says, he's my man, whatever he says is true. That's got to be frustrating for you. Like, what do you say when people say to you, no, he really won the election?
Well, I go through my usual arguments, but you're right. Some people's minds are completely closed. But, the specific things they point to that roam around the internet are nonsense. That's simply factually not true. And he keeps on repeating a lot of those claims. Yeah. But apart from that, I like to point out to people, go back and look at the vote. I mean, he ran weaker than the Republican ticket in Pennsylvania. Other Republican candidates did much better than he did. Same in Arizona, same in Wisconsin. You can't run behind the Republican ticket and expect to win a tight election. Yeah,
no, I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that you say in your book is he is so often his own worst enemy, and in light of the upcoming 2024 election, maybe not a good idea for him to run again. But let me turn this into a spiritual question. At the heart of our faith is redemption, everyone's ability to turn their lives around and redirect. Is it possible? You know, we used to talk about the new Nixon back in 1968. Is it humanly possible that he could wake up in the Pauline sense and say, I've got to stop being as colorful as I am, and start to take seriously the constructive criticism to pull back in some of this off-putting personality? Is he capable of that?
Not from my experience. I mean, he's 74, 75, somewhere in there, and if he hasn't, he had so much writing on re-election, and everybody was telling him he had to pull it back in a little bit to patch up some of the damage that had been done in the suburbs, and he just didn't listen. I think he's a very willful guy, and can be very petty. But, I try to be balanced in the book because I do give him a lot of credit.
You do, yes.
And I do think he came at an important time where I was worried about the country getting pushed off the abyss by the progressives. And he put on a full court, a defense, a goal line defense, and he stopped it. And he was tough. And a lot of the impulsiveness and headstrongness that could later hurt him, was probably a benefit in 2016 and helped us accomplish a lot in his administration.
Right.
So I'm not hostile to President Trump. I think he has a lot of good qualities too. But when I look ahead, I say, what will really make America great again? It will take a dominant election the way Reagan had, with 44 states, then 49 states, then as vice president. He had 12 years of rule there. And he's not the man to deliver that kind of future for, my party.
Attorney General Barr, in his book, One Damn Thing After Another, is also immensely kind and respectful to someone who is vilified. I have people in my own parish who call him a traitor, which I find very offensive. They have completely turned on Vice President Mike Pence. You think differently?
Absolutely. I mean, the same people, may think I'm a traitor, but we're not traitors. Our duty is to the Constitution. I think Pence was a man who served very loyally and was a great vice president and a man of absolute principle and a very decent man. The idea that he had the power to go up there and reverse the results of the election just on his own was absurd. I mean, it was a crackpot theory that no respectable lawyer could ever say. And even the people who were advancing it admitted it would never win if it were ever challenged. Yeah. So, to attack him for doing the right thing under his duty under the Constitution, to me, was despicable.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Attorney General Barr, one of the things that I've had the privilege of doing in my life is to become good friends with an old film director named Frank Capra. And in movies like It's a Wonderful Life, he would highlight the idea that physical illness is nothing compared to discouragement. I mention that because I wondered as I read your book, and you talk about the dangers of progressive control of media and the universities and so many other parts of what influences people. Do you, in light of that aggressive takeover, are you a person who is discouraged easily, or do you have hope for the future?
I have hope for the future, but I think it's a mistake for Christians to fall into the same frame of mind as the progressive secular people, because they think everything has to be accomplished in the here and now, in this earthly existence. And that's why they have this sort of totalitarian style, because for them, this has to be accomplished on earth, and we can fix everything. We can create heaven here. I think we live in a fallen world, and I think we have to have perspective as to what is possible. And so I don't get discouraged because I don't think we can reach earthly perfection in government and in human existence. I think we can do our best, but if we expect perfection, we're going to be disappointed. So I think having a broader perspective than just the here and now is important.
Now, with you, going back to what you said a moment ago, I would love to see the discovery of another Ronald Reagan figure, because he was amazing. But when you look out as a lifelong Republican, are you seeing people out there that show particular promise?
Yeah, I'm not going to, name names as to who I think is good, because so many of them are my friends, and I think they're all very good.
Right.
And I want to see them go around the track a few times. And the other thing is, I think there may be some undiscovered talent that is
Right.
undiscovered by the media. Unfortunately, we live in a world where the media sort of goes for, vitriol and the soundbite and big fracases. And sometimes some very talented people don't emerge in that with that kind of focus. But I think the Republican Party right now has a very deep bench, and I.
Good. I want to thank Attorney General William Barr for being with us, and I hope our listeners and watchers will get one damn thing after another. It's beautifully written, it's powerful, challenging, and he's a man who is incapable, I think, of not speaking his truth. And I have to tell you, in public life, to deal with people who don't obfuscate but just call it like it is a wonderful and refreshing thing. Thank you for being proud to be a Catholic Christian. Thank you for serving our country. Thank you for all the good you do, and thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Father. It's been a privilege, and thank you for all you do for the Church and your leadership.
This program is made possible in part and sponsored by Bullion Shark, a leading rare coin dealer. Do you remember the Bible story of the widow's mite? The widow's mite coin is the type of coin that's circulated in the Holy Land and is mentioned twice in the Bible. It's now possible to have one of your very own. Bullion Shark, a well-known rare coin dealer, has a limited supply of these biblical coins, and each coin has been professionally certified. You can buy one or more of these rare coins for just $99 each. While supplies last, their number is 1-888-355-1587, and their website is www.bullionsharks.com. This 2,000-year-old unique coin is a piece of biblical history that also makes a perfect gift. Each coin comes with NGC certification to guarantee authenticity and a story card detailing the story behind the piece. You can own a piece of the biblical story that can be passed along to family members for generations to come. Once again, Bullion Shark's number is 1-888-355-1587, and their website is www.bullionsharks.com. What a great opportunity to own or to give as a gift the very coin mentioned in the Bible. I want to thank you all for being with us on our program today. If you'd like to reach me or have questions or comments, please write to personallyspeakingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get past episodes by going to YouTube, searching under Personally Speaking with Msgr Jim Lisante, and please don't forget to click like and subscribe. Personally Speaking is also available as a podcast on personallyspeakingpodcast.buzzsprout.com. We're also on Facebook at Personally Speaking with Msgr Jim Lisante, and we're also now on Instagram at Personally Speaking Podcast. Please share and let others know about Personally Speaking.